Hello and welcome. My name is Greatman Ayilara, and I'm excited to come to you today on our popular program, Intentional Parenting. It's going to be strictly podcast today for effective communication and for logistic purpose. You can listen to the rebroadcast of this particular segment on my YouTube channel later on by searching for Greatman Ayilara on YouTube for easy access. Now today we want to talk about a very critical topic, a certain form of value that is actually going into extinct in our generation. We are gradually abusing the purpose of freedom in this dispensation. Although we need to allow our children to plug into several forms of resources for the sake of helping them reach wider coverage that we could not in our own days. But then it is still our responsibility to regulate most of those resources because they could be dangerous. Once before, I have spoken about the danger of unsupervised technology. You could find that also on my page, either on Facebook or you go to YouTube to search for it. Or the kind of Brook I'm talking about today is the ability to sell the ideal legacy of the family to the children using one method called the method of drinking from the same brook. While your children are still under the age of supervision, you must know that they are your property, you own them. And whatever happened to them at that stage of their life, you are to be held responsible. Every nation have their age of adulthood or the age where children could get to and they are able to take responsibility for their action. Or you see, most times, both the ones we call the bad child and the ones we call good child, they are product of a certain brook from which they drink from. The way people are indoctrinated are solely the responsibility of their parent. The kind of family you sprout from goes a long way in determining the way you think. The environment you grew up from has a lot of effect on your self-esteem. And if you know this very well, you must make an intentional effort to make sure that your children are getting the same kind of resources that you are getting that turns you to what you have become today. You want them to be religious, then introduce them to religious stuff. You want them to be a free thinker who could reason outside the box, then you can also do that with them or for them. But when you allow your children to go their separate way or give them that so much freedom to begin to draw from a different brook, from the legacy of your family, there is going to be a great deal of conflict. Now you must understand that one of the contributing factors to conflict in family where children could not listen to parents, where parents do not understand children, is because of the resources they are using to make their life count. If we want our children to get to the place where we are right now in life, to listen to us, to obey us, so to say, not that they could not ask questions or query our actions, but for them to be in uniformity with us, we must make sure that constant effort in allowing them to drink from the brook from which we are drinking from is being put in place. For instance, what are the kind of music you permit in your own home? What are the set of books that you are introducing or exposing your children to? Because either you like it or not, what you eat is what you are. Either in form of food, music, books, the TV series you watch, the places you go to, the friends you keep. They are congestible materials. You are also ingesting them into your system. So you must allow these children be exposed to what you are also exposed to, if you want them to think the way you are thinking. And this is where it matters who you marry as a parent. Now, I've said it several times that in choosing a life partner, either a male or a female, I'm not saying emotion is not important, but I'm saying that when you want to choose this life partner, what comes to your mind? Is it how to have sex with this person? Remember, you get tired of having sex. Is it how beautiful this person looks? Remember, they are going to grow old. Is it how strong they are or how rich they are? Remember that nothing lasts forever. But there's sure something that will last for a while, or maybe forever, before the death of either of you. And that is the ability to parent your children. And parenting is like a baton. You pass it on. And what you give to your children while you are still agile and they are still younger is what you see them racing up after when they grow up and you cannot chase or even catch up with them anymore. So I often tell people, in the choice of your life partner, are you also putting your children into consideration? Are you thinking that, can this woman be a good mother for my kids? Because you cannot afford to marry a woman that have low self-esteem, that get easily frustrated, who is not strong. You can't afford to marry a man who is lazy, that is not creative, that is not protective, that does not speak or communicate effectively. It's going to go a long way in affecting how your children reason, how they think, how they relate with people in the outside world. And you don't want to raise some zombie as children. You don't want to raise your children through a lady or a man who hears what others says without reasoning, go ahead to make decision. Those are the things you need to look out for if you really want to raise children intentionally. Because what these children see you do is what they grow up to start doing. What they are used to seeing you do is what they grow up doing at the end of the day, and they do it religiously. That is one thing about children. They do it religiously without even leaving any stone unturned. But we don't want that. We don't want children who cannot reason outside the box. So what do? We keep introducing them to resources and keep making them have the access to query our actions and whatever we do. You are someone who goes to maybe a certain religious setting A, and you allow your children go to religious setting B. When they come home and you are reasoning regarding the issue of or the matter of God or theocracy, you realize there's going to be a lot of argument back and forth between you and them. Now, that is different from marrying a man or a woman that does not believe in your religious view. Note that you are now adult, and they can give you the freedom to think outside the box with the sole condition that you will take responsibility for your action. But when it comes to children, know that you will bear the consequence of whatever it is that they do. So in order for you not to bear too much consequence that doesn't really augur well with you, make sure you program their mind to think in a positive manner, in a positive way. So what am I trying to get to today? I'm trying to say to you that you are not raising zombies as children, but you are raising children who think like you think. Remember that these children will eventually become the ambassador of your family name and legacy. And you will not always be there with them. Know also that a good name is better than gold. There are things that name opens for you that money or gold cannot. And that's why we are so scared how our children behave when they are out of reach. And it ought not to be so if we had instilled the right discipline in them before they leave our vicinity. Now it is a story of a certain man whose friend came to see him. And they are from the Yoruba part of Nigeria. And in Yoruba part of Nigeria, the girl child will kneel down and the boy child will prostrate. And then this friend came and the children say hi. And the man started beating the children and saying, "You are so spoiled. Is that how to greet uncle?" and all that. And the other friend said, this is not the right time for you to train these children. It is the way you have actually lived your life or allowed them or permitted them over the time that is reflecting now. Children are not trained by our sudden attack on their thought pattern. They are trained by a methodic modeling of their way of thinking. Children are not trained. You can't train your children successfully by attacking their emotion, attacking their self-esteem, attacking them in the public especially. You can train them effectively only if your life is a perfect model for them to follow. So what I'm saying right now is that it is not enough for you to tell them what to do. Also expose them to what you do. There is an adage in my own land that says that a certain culture you don't expose children to dies along with you. So it is never enough for you to say, okay, you children do like this. No, why are you doing what you're doing? Encourage a querying and questioning culture in your own home. Expose them to what you do and how you do it, and especially the reason why you do what you do. Why do you take them to church? Explain to them. So when you are not at home, they are the one to gather themselves together and go to that church without even you telling them it's time to go to church. The same way you indoctrinate them to believe in going to school for education, is the same way you must also expose them to the reason why you do things the way you do them in your home. So the place of effective communication comes in here. But what we are talking about is your ability to expose them to your own brook, your thought pattern, your thinking, your mindset, your way of life, what you read, what you say, or which friend you keep. I grew up, and when my father was still around, I grew up hearing him listening to the song of Miriam Makeba. And I was exposed to that song. And when I grew up right now, the best music I listen to when I'm in the bathroom having my bath is South African music, especially sung by Miriam Makeba. Now what happened? Because I've watched my father do that. I don't know why he did that, but later he told me that there's serenity in it, even though we don't understand most of the things that Miriam Makeba is saying, but we love the rhythm. And then he didn't tell me to listen to Miriam Makeba. I watched him listening to it. I saw the effect of calmness in him. And I started telling myself that I'm going to be listening to the song of this woman. And all the songs like King Sunny Ade, Obe Komada, not because there are no other songs that are containing vulgarity in those days, but because that is what I was used to seeing my father listen to. So when he leaves home, I go to his liquid transistor, his karaoke, and I try to rewind it and listen to it. And sometimes we get into conflict. And I vow to myself, when I start living alone and I become an adult, I'm going to buy myself a big stereo system, and the music that will be playing there is going to be those music. And today, my mind has not changed. There are a lot of polluted music going around in the world right now that can literally just make our children go crazy and gaga. There are a lot of pressures around. People, young boys singing about women's buttocks, singing about breast, singing about how to make money illegally, how to live life without working hard for it, how to stumble on fortune that they did not, how to perfectly become a gold digger. They are singing those songs then too. It might not be as vulgar or very pronounced as it is right now, but I was not exposed to it. So there is something about my mind space that was not diverging into that era, into that way of thinking. Why? Because I have parents who are not just telling me what to do, they are exposing me to what they do also. And that was the best and the most effective way of training. So when I left home, I went to the Polytechnic, and one time I got so addicted to the music of R. Kelly. You know, the same R. Kelly. And I began to notice that it's like a foreign object is coming into my body. I live a life that I could consider as an alien life. I knew something is not right, even though I was loving the music. But I felt the music is leading me astray. And I'm going to tell you the truth. When I listened to music of R. Kelly, I was highly promiscuous. Highly promiscuous. The only thing I was thinking about then is as to have sex with women. But in my subconscious mind, something is not working well. There is a conflict in my mind. Why? Because what I was exposed to, the Brook I was drinking from home, is now different from the one I'm drinking from outside. And there is a conflict. That's why I say train up your children to be able to conquer the battle of peer pressure. The peer pressure battle and war will always be on. But how much self-esteem and indoctrination you are giving to your children at home determines what kind of battle they win and how fast they win it. So nobody taught me. I didn't go for a deliverance session. Within the space of 2 years, I told myself, I'm never going to listen to the song of this man again because it's pushing me to do what I don't want to do. So by myself, I dump it. Many years ago, I'm talking about 1999, 2000 now, without my parental supervision, without their supervision. And why was I able to win that battle on time? Was because my father never introduced me to that brook. We grew up from home not drinking from a polluted brook that talk about sex as if it's nothing, that talks about breast and buttocks. So even though my father left home when I was just 13-year-old and my mother was not there to oversee what I was doing because I was schooling in Lagos, my mother is in Ogun State, I was still able to realize that something is wrong about where I'm drinking from right now because it sounds and tastes polluted. And this has nothing to do with either you go to church or you are attending mosque. As a matter of fact, morality has nothing to do with knowing God or not. It is about home training, and that's why you are the very first idol or the very first God your children can be exposed to. So you must ensure you drink from the same brook. You can't tell your children not to sing Davido's song when they get to church, and after church you put them in the car and what music that is playing there is that same song. You are not deceiving anybody, and you are not confusing them. You are actually modeling them to know how to perfectly live an hypocritical lifestyle. Now you parents listening to me right now, I want you to do something. Check your phone, your mobile phone. Check your CD rack. The music's there. Are there things that you know if your children listen to it word for word, you are proud if they practice what is being talked about in that music? Because the lyrics have power. It is a commanding tone. That's why you see that they do anything to attend musical concert. And when the musician says, put off the light, oh yeah, turn on your torchlight, they turn it on. The musician say, lift up your hands, they lift it up. The musician say, raise your leg, they lift it up. And there are a lot of songs around right now. They say this one is Zanku, this one is Yahuse, this one is Bebodie, that one is Besolwe, and what you don't know is that these things are brooks. They are brooks. A well of either living water or dying water. And your children are constantly being exposed to it, and you still want to reap the reward of your labor on them when you gallantly or voluntarily allow them to go into the shark water. So your children dress like these musicians. They barb hair like them. They tint their hair like them. They wear crazy jeans like them. They talk like them. And they smoke weed and get themselves exposed to dangerous substances like them, because you have left the job of modeling and parenting and commanding and anchoring to the hand of someone who is not well parented but fell into fame accidentally. In our old days, it is very, very compulsory that our parents know what we are hearing and what we are reading. I was reading a book the other time released by Educational Board, I don't think of this country, and they were teaching children how to sex education rather. And the content of that sex education is so absurd and so vain. It's as if the children could just go ahead and practice this thing. And parents actually bought it for their children because it is listed as part of the textbook needed for the school. So you can't assume that the school you put your children will keep them safe. Being a teacher and being a parent are two different things. A teacher is meant to continue what the parent already know, what the children already know. That's why you could see some children, even in their classroom, they are able to query their teachers and say, my mommy said, my daddy said. And most of us that grew up back in the late 70s and also early 80s, till today, even though we are grown-up men and we have women or men in our lives or something, we still abide by the rule of what our mothers or fathers said, because they said the right words to us, and it's working right now. What are you saying to your children? What are you exposing them to? You can't afford to live a life of hypocrites in church, in mosque, in the society, at workplace, and still live the same life at home, because the children can see you in a transparent manner and form. How often do you hold a round table discussion with your children to ask them about their perspective towards life? How deep do you think you understand what these children are congesting online, offline, and even in religious spaces? Because I see a lot of you say, okay, I allow my children to go to church. I don't go to church, and I don't see anything wrong in it. When they grow up, they will find God for themselves. No, it doesn't work that way. A church you are not going, your children should not go. A gathering you are not attending, your children should not be found there. You must endeavor to drink from the same brook. And let me even say someone is going to Catholic church, the other is going to Pentecostal church. There will always be a different perspective towards who God is, and that could even cause early rebellion among children and their parents. So you must ensure that until they reach the age of maturity where they can take responsibility for their action, they abide by your rule and regulation. Freedom is a very high price to pay, and you must make sure that your children, they earn it. They earn it. What about fashion exposure? What kind of fashion are you exposing your children to? Surely there must be a way that the children born in the home of Ayilara should dress. There must be a limit. See, the pastor in your church, his duty is not to correct your children not to wear clothes that are diaphanous. The duty of the teacher of your children is not to tell them to put their trousers in their waist. That's your rule. So when other people need to now correct your children to live right or straighten them up, what I want you to do is to just write it down every single time. I am a failed parent. I am a failed parent. And then you must understand that children don't become rebellious and revolting all of a sudden. It is because you allow it and they got used to it that they are now fighting you when you don't want them to continue in it. A case of a man and a woman who were married, and then the man always leave the woman to make the decision at home. And suddenly you want to take a grip of the home and say, okay, as from today you have to pass the decision through me. The woman is going to feel indignant, not because there's something wrong, but because she's used to that freedom. That's the same way with children. And one thing is, I'm very sure, children misuse freedom. They misuse it. So you must ensure that you expose them to the same Brook. Now, it is not enough for you to tell them what to wear. It is also compulsory for you to make them understand the reason why they are wearing what they are wearing, why they are different from every other child out there. The fact that it is in vogue and it is trending does not mean that your children should put them on. Make them understand the complications and the implications behind every of their actions by exposing them to the brook from which you drank from to become what you are. Some of you have forgotten your family legacy. How you were raised up to become responsible in life right now is not the same way you are raising your children up. That's why you see a lot of single mothers who got pregnant outside of wedlock, producing children who will get pregnant outside of wedlock. I'm going to say it again. That's why you see a lot of single parents who have children outside of wedlock, producing children who will have their own children also outside of wedlock. Why? Because you are exposing them to the same brook, and the law of ripple effect is that whatever you see is what you get. Let's say you didn't get it right or your parent did not get it right. Are you making that intentional decision today to say that for your children, they will not have a glance or a glimpse to whatever it is that made you become what you have become today? And let's say you got it right from your parent. Are you reciprocating, or are you making a continuity plan visible in your home to make sure that the legacy that turned you out to become what you are today is being replicated or invested in the life of your children also? Parenting is not about providing for their needs. Parenting is about modeling them to carry on the family legacy forever. And it was said about a certain family, I read it in the scripture. Someday, God wanted to teach some sect a lesson on why they should not deviate from his plan. And he said, send from the family of so and so and give them wine. So when they sent for this family, the children say, our forefathers forbid us not to drink wine. In our own family, we don't drink wine. And their forefathers, this is not the fourth generation or something, millions of generations before. It became a rule and a regulation that is being transferred from one generation to the other. There is a man called Abraham, and the Muslim folks call him Ibrahim. This is why God said, he's my friend. He said, shall I keep anything away from Ibrahim, knowing fully well that he will order his children to follow in my way? So there is only one prerequisite for you to become a friend of God, and that is if you are able to reciprocate or transmit God's legacy on your children for them to carry it on for life. So today, I want you to make a very, very important decision. Take a stock of your whole life. Sit back, go back to the drawing board. How did you end up where you are today? What was the mistake you made? What was the thing that you did? Now, do not be afraid to expose your children to your mistake. One of the best mistakes we make that ruin the life of our children is that we keep our mistakes, our days of falling from them. Have a round table talk. Let them understand, baby, if you hear me shouting on you, if you hear me screaming and nagging, I don't hate you. I love you. I live practically for you, and I want to see you succeed. At your age, this is the mistake I made. I did this, I did that, I did that. Lay it bare before them. Children are intelligent and they are very, very understanding. Make them understand, at your time, this is a mistake I made. This is the career path I chose. This was a reason, and I didn't become successful. At your own time, this is the things I did. Don't repeat my own mistake. It hurts me when I see my mistake being repeated in your life. Are you a girl child? You were not close to your mother? You were keeping to yourself? You are considered to be an introvert? Or maybe, and you got pregnant outside of wedlock, and you already have a child now that is following your footsteps, you might be sitting on a time bomb. Are you a man who was never being tutored or being guarded by someone older than you in terms of your decision making and all that, and you eventually got yourself involved in several maybe STD infection or whatever it is, and you messed up your career and all that, and you already have your own son who doesn't want to listen to people? See, they don't know any better. Find time to calm them down and relate your mistake to them. They are able to now make good decisions for themselves. And the last thing I want you to do is to think or consider controlling their mind. No. Always ensure you tell them the truth and allow them freedom to use the truth the best way. Or if your child is caught in a web of the same mistake you made, can you boldly say you did your best and you tried all you could? The only way you can get to say that is if you expose them to your own brook. Are you drinking from the same brook? You've made several mistakes in your life. You've done many things wrong in life. Now you know better. Then you need to expose your children or your child to that same brook. So many of you are emancipating yourself from mental and religious slavery, but you are not exposing your children to the same resources that is helping you come out of it. So many of you are clamoring for let there be man worshiping his God by himself, but you are not carrying your children along. So when you want to listen to this music, to these messages, to these things, you listen to them by yourself, only yourself. What about the children? Do you think they are too dumb to understand what you're listening to? And one thing I want you to understand is that when a certain enemy army want to turn a POW, prisoner of war, against their own country, what they do is they put them in a chair, lock them down there, and they play propaganda tape for them over and over again for the next 90 days. No one can escape it. Whatever you hear all of the time for the next 90 days becomes internalized. You were taken for granted by your pastor. You almost were raped. Sometimes you were raped actually. You were not able to speak out. Your money was stolen from you under the guise of the name of Jesus or so into Kaaba or Mecca. And you are angry, but you are free from those things. And you hear messages regarding that, but you are not exposing your children to it. It's going to be a replication. It's going to be what we call a relay of religious slavery and mental slavery. What exactly are you exposing these children to? Are you drinking from the same brook? Are you drinking from the same source? The water that flows in your body, is it the same that flows in your body? Can we say you guys have a uniform mentality? If you are not with your child, can you predict what they are up to given a certain situation? It doesn't dawn on them. It comes by modeling them, watching them, modeling them, and watching them. Modeling them in such a way that it is visible that this is what I stand for. It's going to be very strange for me to have a child who is not bold or who cannot speak his or her mind. Why? Because they're going to watch me doing exactly what I'm doing right now without leaving anything behind. So what happens is they grow up to become what I have modeled them to be. But sometimes we parents, we are something outside and different thing inside. And how can you effectively get this done? When you marry someone who synergize with your thought pattern. Is he thinking the way you're thinking? Is she thinking the way you're thinking? This has nothing to do with religion they practice. But when it comes to moral values and legacy, are you guys in sync? Then no problem, you go ahead. Because they know that whatever they hear from mommy is the same thing they are going to hear from daddy. But when daddy is saying A and mommy is saying Z, then there's going to be confusion. You leave the children no option than to form their own separate hypothesis. And you know, when a house is divided against itself, it cannot stand. So you must make it a conscious effort for your children to be exposed to what you are exposed to. But in exposing them to what you are exposed to, make sure they are exposed to what is good, what can afford them freedom, what can help them become better. In exposing them to the same brook where you are drinking from, make sure that the water from that brook is not poisonous. It's not poisonous. And children might want to revolt and say, why are you trying to make me listen to what you're listening to today? The answer is simple. Because you are under my roof. That's all. There is no need to drag. There's no need to nag. The children of these days are well being dealt with some kind of silent treatment. It's a noisy world they live in. They are not used to silence. Then use that silence against them to correct them. They feel tormented if you are giving them silence treatment. You try it. They have had enough of your nagging and shouting. It's not working. The reason why you still keep shouting is because it's not working. Yeah, try something else. Mommy, why are you making me listen to the same YouTube as you? Why are you making me listen to your music? People don't listen to that music anymore. No need to shout. You are under my roof. You are my responsibility. What I eat, you eat. And what I hear, you hear. Simple. When you have your own roof, you can do whatever you want to do. But you would have exposed them so much long enough while they are with you for the first 18 years of their life that even when they leave for the rest of their life, the way you have told them to toll, they never depart from it. And that's what that scripture means. That teach a child in a way that he should go. When he grow up, he will not depart from it. It didn't say take a child to church or mosque. It didn't say beat a child to death. It's telling them model a child to follow your way of life. When they grow up, you won't have conflict telling them that, why are you living different from the family legacy? No. They automatically just carry the family legacy on, and it becomes a burden because they throw it to their own children and from children's children. And by so doing, you make God proud. Why? Because these children belong to Him. And He said, children are God's own heritage. We are just custodian. How is it like when you face God and you say, on these children, I did my best. You can see they are turning out well. When you become a cloud of witness and you are watching them from heaven or wherever you find yourself later, and you know that having died, your children are carrying out the right legacy and they are spreading this brook to other people. They become infectious in terms of positivity. I want to raise children so much with great self-esteem and so much confidence in themselves that wherever they get to, they become like a light. They shine and chase the darkness in the life of people away. You can make that same decision with me. And it is not hard. It is just by you saying that I can fail on anything and in anywhere, but when it comes to my children, I refuse to fail, and God will answer your request. My name is Greatman Ayilara. This is intentional parenting. I am passionate about raising generations of leaders who will replace the vacuum of leadership we have right now. We want to raise leaders after our own kind. Children we can be proud of. Children when we can go back to the room and sleep and say, my child is taking care of it. Will you do the same with me? Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Greatman Ayilara. Press the subscribe button and also the alarm button so that you know when we're live and when we have a broadcast for you. Follow my Facebook page for live videos and broadcasts. Just go to Facebook, type at the Greatman Ayilara there. And if you also want to be a partner on this particular platform, you have a better way for us to spread this particular news and help our parents out there who are confused and not knowing what to do to raise great children by being intentional. Please do message me either on this platform by leaving me a comment or reaching out to my WhatsApp through 08078384845. 08078384845. We will be launching the public partnership of our foster home very soon. We want to build a foster home for these children on the street because our concept of parenting is not local, it is global. Either these children are our own biological children or adopted children or in our neighborhood, we want to train them the way we will treat or train our own. And those who are homeless, we intend to take them in, help them become a better person and give them this baton again, reproduce our legacy through them. Grace be with you. And don't forget, do not be selfish. Press your share button or send a link to someone right now and let them know that there is more to parenting than having sex with their spouse, providing food, house, and clothing for their children. Grace be with you. Bye for now.